Hey bros, welcome to the Steroid Journals. This is a video series where I chronicle my step-by-step involvement with anabolic steroids. Everything from being curious about them, to researching them, to buying them and then using them, and what the results were, and beyond, and every little step in between. What this video series is not is me instructing anybody on how to use them or what to use. I'm not here advocating the use of them at all. I'm just telling you what I did. Where we last left off, I had purchased my first cycle. I placed the order, and as soon as I did that, I went ahead on that particular lab subforum and posted a thread saying, hey, placed my order today, so excited. And really the only reason why I posted this was to kind of call them on their shit in case there was any possibility of them not shipping to me or taking their sweet ass time shipping my gear. I wanted to kind of make a point of being like, hey, I bought the stuff just so that there was as few chances of them being dickheads, because there are dickheads out there. There are labs that are more than happy to take your money and not send you anything. Read all kinds of horror stories about that on the forum, or labs that have even been around for a little while and then totally vanished from the face of the planet, but they've got your money and they're not sending you anything. I was pretty nervous that that was going to happen to me. That's kind of why I went ahead and posted that message for everybody to kind of see. The responses that I was getting, though, were things like, oh, that's awesome, bro, what's your cycle? I knew that the common consensus out there is your first cycle should just be test E, testosterone enanthate, or, test P or whatever. You shouldn't have a stack. You shouldn't be doing multiple things, because the idea is you want to see how your body reacts to just one thing, and then on your next cycle you can go ahead and add a second thing, and then if something goes fucking wrong, you know that it's the second thing that you added, and so on. But my buddy, who's the big ass bodybuilder, decided it would be a great idea to start me out on 3 things for my first cycle. So I told them, I was upfront, and I was like, oh, well, testosterone enanthate and DECA and D-ball. And they were like, dude, you shouldn't be doing 3 things. You should just be doing test E, which I knew is what they would say, but I figure, hey, my buddy is huge, probably knows what he's talking about, so I'll just go ahead and trust him and do all 3 things at once for my first cycle. Maybe not the smartest decision on my part. They did not like that. And then they wanted to know, I was getting questioned like, hey, what ancillaries are you using? Now, what ancillaries are, that's the medication that you're taking alongside your cycle, the stuff to prevent side effects, basically. Because, one of the most commonly known side effects is gyno. That's the bitch tit sort of situation where when the testosterone aromatizes into estrogen, it can create some fatty tissue underneath your nipple, giving you what looks kind of like little breasts. So in order to prevent that, you can take some stuff like Arimidex or Aromacin, or stuff that prevents aromatization. I hadn't bought any. I didn't realize it was that big of a deal. I guess I just wasn't as educated about it as I really should have been. My buddy certainly didn't do jack shit to educate me about that. He really should have. But then I was freaking the fuck out that I didn't have any of this shit, so I was like, okay, well, before my stuff arrives, I better go ahead and buy some Aromacin or whatever. And then they were asking, hey, what's your PCT? Now, for you guys not familiar with what PCT stands for, it's post-cycle therapy, and that's the medication that you take after your cycle is all done. Because you might know that what happens when you're injecting all of this extra testosterone into your body is that your body is like, well, fuck this shit, I don't need to be making testosterone anymore, I'm gonna stop doing that then. So your body shuts down production of testosterone because it's getting all this extra. When you come off your cycle, it will eventually start producing testosterone again, but you really want to help ease it back into that process with some of this medication that will help you do that. Otherwise, you're going to go through all kinds of shit like depression, non-existent sex drive, shrunken testicles, all kinds of not fun shit. You want to be taking PCT, and all these dudes were saying you really should have your PCT right now before you even start your cycle. You want to make sure you're ready to go. And I was not. So I asked my buddy, the bodybuilder, hey, what should I be doing for PCT? And he was like, oh, no, we'll talk about that towards the end of your cycle. And I was like, fuck that shit. I'm not waiting for him to tell me what I should be doing for my PCT. He's obviously not on top of it as far as this preventative medication stuff goes. For me, at least, I'll do my own research. I'll make sure I'm comfortable and ready to go. Sure enough, I went ahead and bought my PCT as well as my Aromasin, all so that it would arrive before I was ready to start my cycle, because like I mentioned in the previous video, I wasn't even going to be able to start my cycle as soon as I got my shit anyway, because I had a broken foot and needed to wait for that to heal so I could have a proper legs day workout. And eventually everything did arrive except needles. And for some reason I did not realize that needles don't just come with your testosterone and whatever. You gotta buy that shit separately. So I messaged my buddy again and was like, hey, I didn't realize this, but I've got to buy needles separately. And he was like, oh, okay, here's the website you go to buy that. Here are the 2 kinds of needles that you want, and you want to buy some alcohol swabs as well. And so I went to this site, and I've never purchased needles before in my life. I've never really dealt with needles except for vaccinations or whatever. So I didn't realize that you want 2 completely separate needles, one to draw the oil out of the vial, another completely separate one to inject into yourself, and the one that you want to draw the oil out, you want that needle to be bigger so that it's pulling the liquid quicker, and then you want obviously a much smaller, skinnier needle to go into your body, so hopefully you don't feel it at all. I learned that the bigger the gauge, the smaller the needle, which was confusing to me, but I bought the shit. Everything arrived finally on time. Buying it was pretty easy. It did have a shopping cart system because it's not illegal to buy needles, so that was all a much quicker, easier experience. And eventually when everything arrived, my foot was just about healed, so I was ready to start my first cycle, and that's what the next video will be about, is me talking about starting my first cycle and the various accidents I made the first few times I tried injecting. Pretty funny shit. See you bros then. Bye.